Overwatch 2 should have been 1 tank, 3 DPS, and 1 support. No. I asked you your hottest Overwatch takes, and I'm going to be reading and responding to each and every one. But if you have some even hotter takes, definitely comment it down below, and we can do a part 2 of this video. Smash the like, subscribe, and let's get started. Now, every hot take is either going to get a pass, meaning good take, trash, meaning awful take, or skill issue, meaning, yeah, it's just your problem. Marv commented this: every character should have their own passive. A lot of characters don't utilize their role passive often enough to be of any value, specifically talking about the DPS roster. This change could also help to solve the issue of some characters not be implemented from a 6-man team to a 5-man team effectively. Now, looking at this on face value, I understand the sentiment, but realize that if you gave every character their own individual passive, then it would be like no one has a role-wide passive. Like, there would be no point. It'd just be power creep across the board. But I do like the idea of having more tailored passives, because there are some characters that just don't benefit at all from the passives, which is why I do think that roles should have perhaps subgroups that have different passives in them. Like, maybe in the DPS role, it could have, like, damage, mobility, sustain, or I don't know, something like along those lines, and every single one of them gets a different passive relative to that. And you could even split up the support and the tank eventually as well to give them different passives depending on what they are, because like you said, a lot of them don't even matter, right? Some literally don't even matter. Like, reload speed doesn't matter on a whole bunch of characters. So while I do agree that the role passive should be 100% tweaked, and they should definitely apply these more specifically to characters within the role, definitely shouldn't give every character their own passive, at least in my opinion, because then it's like, what even is the point? Now, honestly, I think I'm gonna give this a pass, because it's a little bit of a trash, but I think I'm gonna give it a pass overall. Next up is Maddox that said 5v5 is a good swap, it was just handled poorly. And this one is very controversial, because some people say that 5v5 was just flat out terrible, like it was just wrong for the game. Other people generally like 5v5 better and just prefer the gameplay to 6v6. I do think that it was handled poorly is very accurate. I also think 6v6 was handled poorly, and I also think in a lot of ways balance as a whole has been handled poorly. So I'm gonna give this good take, even if it is a bit controversial on 5v5 versus 6v6. I probably like 6v6 better, to be honest, and if all things were handled perfectly, I think I would have preferred it. But in an imperfect world, I think 5v5 is gonna play better. But there are also definitely repercussions, like we're seeing right now with the tanking role and how unfun it is to play. So I think it's really up to Blizzard to come up with creative solutions to fix the problems of 5v5, and we'll see if they can. If not, then yeah, 6v6 is the clear winner. Next up is by Big Fudge, and he says, I think Roadhog getting his one shot back is okay on 2 conditions. Number 1, reduce the range of the hook to 12 meters so that it's only punishing people out of position. Number 2, give a small delay before Hog can shoot so it gives characters a small window to use abilities. That way Hog has to look to punish people who use their cooldowns. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't really think this is a hot take at all. Like, I think that this would be fine, because if you allow people to use their abilities in between the hook and the shoot, like, Hog can't one-shot. Like, yeah, I mean, most characters have something they can do about it. Most characters have a way to interact. So, yeah, I mean, if you hook an Ana, she's gonna have sleep or nade. Are you really just gonna sit there and wait out both? You don't really have a window. So, yeah, I don't think this is a hot take. I don't really think that anyone would disagree with this. So, I'm gonna give it a trash take. I'm sorry, Big Fudge. Next up is Zach the Blur, which says one-shots are not only okay, but healthy for the game, as long as every one-shot requires a high level of skill and/or there is an expensive trade-off for using it. High cooldown, low character HP, etc. Additionally, one-shot should be limited to the DPS role to give it some kind of identity. Ooh boy, I definitely am not going to agree with this one for sure. So here's the thing. I understand the idea that if a one-shot has a high cooldown, so it can't happen all the time, and it is also something that requires high skill, then it can be balanced. But I want to ask you the question, what is high skill to you? What is high skill? Like, what makes something high skill? Do you consider shooting people in the head on Widow high skill? Because a lot of those shots are hard, but here's the problem. When people get good and people get better and people hit those shots, Widow becomes completely oppressive. And a lot of people in Overwatch 2 finally felt it for the first time, what many players that played in Grandmaster Plus back at Overwatch 1 felt the entire time, which is that good widows could hit shots consistently. Yes, we understand it takes a high level of skill to get to that level, so it just became completely oppressive. And I do understand that perhaps you're talking about combining some of these factors, right? If perhaps Widowmaker could one-shot only when she's ultimating, and this was a suggestion I had for Widowmaker, where you gave her the ability to one-shot from any range only when she's ulting, that forces it so there's only a small window of time where she's that deadly, and most of the time she's not anywhere near that deadly. You could even like make her weaker in her normal state, give her a cool ability, and then activate it so if she has her ultimate, then she's super deadly, right? I think in situations like this, it could be a bit more balanced. It's okay for ultimates to have the potential to kill things instantly, especially if they're hard to hit shots. And I do think that as long as it's something that happens very infrequently and it's hard, it could be okay. So I do understand that point, but I also want to make it very clear here that I don't think one-shots are needed for a healthy game. Like, you can kill things fast. You don't have to kill things instantly. Nothing needs to die right away, but things can die relatively quickly, right? Getting one clip by a tracer, that happens very fast. It doesn't happen instantly. And I also want to make it clear that a high level of skill alone is not enough to justify having a one-shot, because then people will get to that level and then the game will be super frustrating. And you never want a game where it's as the skill ceiling gets higher and higher, there are certain characters that literally take over a game when they don't affect anyone else. It doesn't make any sense to do it like that, and I don't agree with it. I'm gonna give this a trash take. I'm sorry. Next up is Thermite Mound that says Ana should always be the strongest support in the game for everything to work properly. She keeps so many characters in check with her abilities, rewards skill, and requires great positioning to be effective. Being the perfect skilled and flexible support is healthy for the balance of the overall game. Now, in a lot of ways, I 100% agree with you. I really love Ana. I love her hero design. I think that she is really kind of textbook Overwatch, what should be an Overwatch character, right? But I also want to make it clear that there are parts of Ana's kit that can be really frustrating, especially in a 5v5 environment. Basically, the nade on an enemy tank is a kind of brain-dead interaction that happens way too often, where it's just like, tank walks up, nade them. Tank walks up, nade them. Tank walks up, nade them. And it's not particularly hard to do, but it gets a crazy amount of value. And I think that Ana can be very, very strong without necessarily only relying on those things. The things I really love about Ana the most is getting rewarded from hitting long distance nades on squishies, not getting rewarded for hitting them on tanks, getting rewarded for hitting a sleep dart in the moment. I really like that, like someone's diving you and you hit a crazy sleep dart, and getting rewarded for shooting, like actually doing damage. I think these things are great about Ana, and as long as you make sure those parts of her kit are strong and not the, oh, tank walks up, I'm gonna nade, tank walks up, I'm gonna sleep, I'm gonna nade, like that kind of stuff is kind of brain dead to me. So as long as you make sure that you don't warp Ana into a character that is just only good at those things or mainly played because of those things, I 100% agree with you. I'm going to give you a good take. I'm going to give you a pass. But yeah, keep in mind that a character can quickly become something that is unfun, not embody what you want it to embody if they strengthen certain parts of her kit or those parts of her kit are too good in the meta. Next up we have is Mr. Cologne that says, hot take, Hanzo should be removed from Overwatch. All right. I have said this before and I'll say this again. Hanzo should not have a one-shot. I've said it before. I'm a Hanzo player. I play a lot of Hanzo. I climbed to top 500 on Hanzo. Like, Hanzo's a character I really, really like. I've always liked him. Played him with Scatter. Played him since the dawn of time, right? But I think that with the new way that Overwatch is moving, one-shot should just not be a thing. I don't think any character should be able to one-shot from range, period. I just don't think it should be a thing, and especially Hanzo being the only one that can one-shot from max range still, I don't really think it makes a lot of sense. Now, I've said that if you get rid of the one-shot on Hanzo or Widow or anyone, you need to compromise with something else, right? You gotta understand that a huge reason that Hanzo's played is because of his one-shot. If you take that away, it dramatically weakens the character. So if you get rid of his one-shot, you would have to buff him in some way. Your take is to delete him from the game, which, you know, I'm gonna give that a trash taste, but I do think that they could fundamentally completely change the character and make him a lot more healthy for the game. But it would require you to get rid of his one-shot and then compromise by giving him other abilities that give him power in some other ways, right? He's not gonna one-shot anymore, but maybe he has like an ice arrow and a fire arrow and a sonic arrow, you know, something like that, where you could split between them or something. I don't know exactly what you would do with him, but give him some way to fight that doesn't only rely on him one-shotting. Because if you took his current state and just got rid of his one-shot, what would happen? The character would be completely unplayable because he's not even the most played character now when he can one-shot. So yeah. Next up, we have November streams that says Overwatch 2 should have been 1 tank, 3 DPS, and 1 support. And notice how I actually thumbed this down because I thought it was interesting. No, I think this is terrible, but it's interesting, though. It is interesting. I mean, in a lot of ways, this is what Overwatch 2 is, right? In a lot of ways, supports should be like half DPS almost at all times, or one of the supports should be very heavy DPS or doing a lot of damage. Like, in a lot of ways, a support plays like a DPS. Like, they do things that DPS do, and you'll look and see, and good supports do a lot of damage and add a lot of damage to the fight. So in a lot of ways, this is kind of how it is. I mean, it really is kind of how it is. But the interesting thing is, if they would have done it like this, the one support, you know, the whole mindset of like, you got to do damage, you got to be aggressive, you got to make plays, that kind of stuff would not really be a thing, because a support would have so many more people to heal, right? With one less person that has a passive heal, one less support to heal, that heal botting would be a much better strategy. So it actually would align more with the Overwatch 1 style of play. Like this 1 tank, 3 DPS, 1 support, the support playstyle wouldn't have fundamentally changed so much going into Overwatch 2 with this playstyle. It would have been a lot more similar. So actually, I don't know about this take. I don't really know about this take. I'm like, you know, I'm kind of split a little bit on this take because I don't think it's actually the worst thing in the world, but I don't love it. You know, I don't think we would ever really know unless we tried it. And the next comment is from Project Slaz, which says, Roadhog was never overpowered. He was just too good at picking people off who didn't know proper placement or how to deal with him. I'm going to say this is an absolute terrible take. This character was maxed out play at every rank and was a menace to deal with at every rank. And even if I agreed with you with the idea that good players could counter a hog, right? Like high rank players could. I think Ana could do a lot. There was a lot of tanks that could do a lot. This character would still dominate like every rank. And you can't just allow a character to be like, oh, this character is terrorizing freaking diamond and below everyone across the board, and yeah, it's just a skill issue for y'all, so y'all could just suffer. Yeah, I hear y'all complaining, I hear y'all have problems, but just get better and the game will be better. Like, no, you can't do that. You just can't do that. Like, the character was definitely way too busted. Also, Hog is a character that is very unfun to play against. I've said multiple times before that you should make it so that the metas that are predominant, the characters that are good, are actually fun and interactive, right? This is important. People's enjoyment of a game is important. It's not just about what is objectively balanced or not balanced. It's about enjoyment as well. I'm gonna give this in the trash. I'm putting it in the dumpster. I'm lighting it on fire. Yeah, like, definitely, I don't like this take at all. And I also do think that good hogs could make him work in, like, any situation. And it was still very frustrating to get one shot. It just always is. Now, 400 BC says, hot take, every kind of immortality should be removed and never added. Same with res, like Suzu, Lamp, Lifeweaver Pool. They should get reworked, same as Mercy Res. Okay, so I'm guessing you're kind of putting in Mercy Res just as a tack on to Immortality. Like, I understand the Suzu, Lamp, Lifeweaver kind of thing, right? But Res is like a different thing. It's like not even close to the same. Where Resurrect is bringing someone back, and these people are like saving people in the moment of a play. It seems like you just really hate defensive abilities. I can understand Res as like a separate thing. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm talking about the Suzu, the Lamp, the Lifeweaver Pool. These are very powerful, yes, but they are also defensive abilities, right? So like, let's say you created an ability that's like stick a grenade onto someone and they die, which was kind of like old cast grenade, but let's just say you stick a grenade on somebody, they die. And there's another ability that says give target player immortality or invincibility for the next second, right? So if you timed it right, you could deny it. One's a passive ability and one is an aggressive ability, right? But the passive ability could be used aggressive and the aggressive ability could be used defensively, hypothetically, right? So these are the ideas behind these abilities. And I don't really think it makes sense to have a game that has 0 defensive ability. Now, perhaps you could argue that they should be done in different ways, but you also got to make it clear that if you want these abilities removed, are we also talking about Bubble? Are we also talking about DM? I do think that there are too many really strong immortality abilities that are too easy to use, right? They're too easy to get off. They're too forgiving. Lamp lasts too long. It has too much health. Suzu can also make the person intangible, and it doesn't just cleanse like an ability, it like actually heals them and all this other stuff, right? So you could make the argument there that I think these things are too easy to get value with, and we could probably tweak them and change them and make them harder to use, and the timing needs to be better and make them more skillful. But to just say that none of these abilities should ever exist, I don't really know, because I don't really think that every ability should be aggressive. I think that there should be some defensive abilities, but I do think that the timing of these should be very precise, and if you mess up the timing, it should just completely not work. So Make them harder to use. Don't make them as easy to use. Make them more punishing if you mess up the timing, but don't get rid of them completely. So overall, I'm going to give you trash, but I could see it being a pass depending on your justification. Now, Ronino Mega said this: Tracer needs a way to attack other than just aiming when not ulting, like a small AoD grenade or something. Also give her faster non-blink walk speed. Yeah, I mean, this is a skill issue. Come on, like this is a skill issue. Let's be honest. This is just strips. Tracer does not need a buff. She does not need another way to attack. She does not need faster non-blink walk speed. She doesn't need any of that. I mean, like, she's one of the fastest characters in the game already. Like, why do you need to make her faster? And then, like, you don't need to give her anything more. Like, yeah, no, skill issue. Skill issue, I'm sorry. Next up is Lucy Goo that said, Orisa is not broken. Her kit just really pops off to stay alive with the huge amounts of healing that is in the game right now. Bastion is just meta because he has the possibility to melt Orisa in a way not any other DPS can. And neither him nor Torb need a huge nerf. Just some small tweaks to Bastion's nade and Torb's overload cooldown. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is the type of argument that I hate the most. I'm sorry, Luciju, like, I'm not targeting you personally, but I hate it when people are like, this is not broken. Only in the context of this game is it broken. This is not overpowered, but in this specific context, in this meta, in the way that the game is played, it is. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, a character is not strong or weak in a vacuum, okay? It's strong or weak in the subjectivity of what the game is, right? So like, you could say, oh, this character's super weak. If this person was nerfed and that person was nerfed and this was different and that was different, it would not be that busted. Yeah, I get it. Okay, sure, but it is that way. Like, you say, this kit really pops out to stay alive with the huge amount of healing in the game right now. That's the way the game is. The game has a lot of healing in the game, and if you wanted to fix that problem, you would have to nerf healers across the board and all the amount of healing that was in the meta right now. So you're saying Orisa's not broken. It's not her fault. It's these 7 characters. They're the ones that are actually at fault. So let's nerf all of them, and then Orisa won't be broken. Okay, just nerf the damn character. Just get rid of Orisa. Like, is that so difficult? Like, I don't really understand why we're jumping through hoops to justify somebody. Yeah, sure, one character might be broken based on the backs of others. That doesn't matter. It doesn't. We're not gonna deal with all these other problems. Like, this isn't like, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna give this a trash taste. I'm sorry, but for the Bastion nade and the Torb overload cooldown nerf, I'm giving that a pass because I think that's actually a good advice. I think those are good overall. But last is Nitro Dash, and he says this: hot take, not sure if it is, but yeah, I love Overwatch and everything Overwatch related, even after all the shit that happened. And you know what? I think I'm gonna give this a pass. I think this is a good take. But let me know down below how you're feeling about Overwatch or any of these hot takes. Do you agree or disagree with my assessment of them? And let me know your spiciest hot takes down below, and we'll do a part 2. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.